If we say Lao Tzu is the founding ancestor of Taoism, then Zhuang Tzu is the one who concretized Lao Tzu's Taoist thoughts and truly applied them to various aspects of life. Compared to Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, the biggest characteristic of Zhuang Tzu is turning profound Taoist ideas into literature, presenting them to the world through myths, fables, legends, and various magical stories, giving Taoist philosophy a more earthly flavor. Therefore, Zhuang Tzu is also known as literature of philosophy and philosophy of literature. Hello. Today we're exploring Zhuang Tzu. Although Zhuang Tzu lived more than 2,000 years ago, he possessed a very modern spirit. He said that a person's pursuit in life should have three aspects. First, a lively and interesting soul. Second, a spirit that seeks freedom. And third, a realm beyond utilitarianism. Almost all the problems we encounter in life can find answers in Zhuang Tzu's teachings. Next, we'll discuss Zhuang Tzu's wisdom from these three aspects of life and see how we can achieve a free and happy life described in Zhuang Tzu, Free and Easy Wandering. In the part on rediscovering an interesting soul, there's a popular saying, pretty faces are dime a dozen, but interesting souls are rare gems, and it contains Zhuang Tzu's wisdom. In Zhuang Tzu's view, a good-looking appearance is just superficial, not the essence. He even admires those who may look extremely ugly but possess great spiritual charm. These individuals might be physically unattractive. Some may be missing a foot, some might have no toes, some could have a large lump on their neck, and so on. For instance, in Zhuang Tzu human world, there is a person named Zhili Shu, who is incredibly unattractive. His face is hidden below his belly button, his shoulders rise above his head, the hair on the back of his head points upwards, his two thighs are connected to his chest, making him look like a monster. Despite being deformed, Zhili Shu can help others sieve rice and remove chaff, and his income from this work supports 10 family members. Despite his deformity, Zhili Shu is not a burden to his family. Instead, he can earn money to support them. Zhuang Tzu also tells the story of Ya, a person who was so ugly that people would be frightened just by looking at him, but he was content and happy. He had no power, no influence, and no money. But it was strange that everyone who had interacted with him, regardless of gender, couldn't help but admire him. Duke Ai of Lu was very curious, so he went to meet this person named Ya. As expected, Duke Ai was deeply impressed by this ugly man and was even willing to share his country with him. If Zhili Shu could merely support his family, then Ya had countless admirers. All those who saw him saw beyond his physical deformities and appreciated his inner spirit. This is why Zhuang Tzu valued the spirit while disregarding the form, emphasizing that true charm lies in a person's inner qualities. These stories show us how Zhuang Tzu viewed both the external and internal aspects of a person. A French female writer named Marguerite Duras, renowned for her work The Lover and honored with the Goncourt Prize, embodied the concept of surpassing appearances in her own life. When she was 66 years old, a young man named André fell in love with her, who was 27 at the time. He wholeheartedly loved the aged Duras and said to her, "Your face, marked by the ravages of time, is more beloved than your youthful visage." For the last 16 years of her life, Duras was accompanied and cared for by André. Duras exhibited a wild and free nature, a woman whom people would love even in death. We witness her charisma transcending looks, age, time, and years. When we return to Zhuang Tzu, we find that both Zhuang Tzu and Duras truly grasped the essence of a person, which lies in their inner spirit rather than their external appearance. As Lao Tzu said, the way of nature is simplicity. When we stop putting on a facade, we become more lively and interesting. Being lively means no rigid boundaries, being flexible, and being in harmony with nature. Being interesting means revealing one's true self, genuine character, and authentic preferences. A child can have a conversation with an elderly man collecting scraps because without pretense, they become equals and lovable. Simplicity and authenticity are precious qualities advocated in Taoism. So how can we live as our true selves? First, we need to let go of the obsession with a single standard. Zhuang Tzu mentioned a famous story called 3 Questions, 3 Not Knowings, which talks about a dialogue between Wang Ni and Mastiche. both ancient hermits who attained the Tao. Wang Ni was the teacher, and Mastiche was the student. Mastiche asked if there is a common standard in this world. The teacher replied by asking, when a person sleeps in a damp place, their waist aches. Does this happen to mudfish as well? We must let go of our obsession with a single standard and adopt a more open-minded view of each thing's individuality. We must strive to realize our true passions so that we can cast aside superficial appearances. Only those with real skills can have genuine character. Many students pursue majors that they aren't passionate about, often chosen by their parents or teachers. They study something just because it's popular, lucrative, or offers good job prospects, and this leads them to misery. They might spend their entire youth burying themselves in an uninteresting field, unable to see a future. Harvard University is considered the best by most people's standards, and successfully completing one's education there is a dream for many. But Zuckerberg discovered his passion, dropped out of college, and devoted himself to his Facebook. Similarly, Bill Gates found his passion, dropped out midway, and focused on Microsoft. Reality proved that their choices were right, and they didn't adhere to completing their education based on other standards. There is no single standard in this world. Zhuang Tzu's philosophy of freedom, pursuing the spirit of freedom. We need to pursue a lively and interesting soul. It's a state of life that we should strive for. Zhuang Tzu also shared some stories about pursuing freedom. Only when one is free can their inner self become lively and interesting. For example, he narrated a story about wild chickens called the marsh pheasant, saying, "A marsh pheasant takes 10 steps to peck and 100 steps to drink, not enduring the confinement of a cage." Wild chickens have to walk tens of steps to find food and hundreds of steps to find water. But even though it's challenging, they refuse to be caged and wait to be fed. If birds like them seek freedom, how much more so for humans? When we were young, we longed for freedom. But as we grew up, we got bound by countless constraints and societal norms, forgetting our innate desire for freedom. Achieving spiritual freedom is no easy task. Many times, people engage in constant comparison, comparing their body shapes, wealth, social status, children, and so on. This comparison inevitably leads to feelings of loss and, even more significantly, a loss of one's true self. In Zhuang Tzu, there is a piece called Pairing Halves, which talks about things that are unique and different from others. Zhuang Tzu tells us that external differences are not that terrifying. They are a part of nature. What's truly frightening is when a person's mind is stuffed with worldly views and standards, leading to fear when they don't fit the norms and arrogance when they do. Do we have the courage to accept and face the uniqueness of each individual? There's a news story about a girl who started getting plastic surgery at 14 years old, spending over $500,000 in total, claiming she has a house on her face. When interviewed, she admitted that cosmetic procedures became addictive. Whenever someone pointed out a flaw, she felt the urge to have more surgery to attain a perfect face. Surrendering oneself entirely to others' aesthetic standards is also quite cruel. The saying, "comparing oneself to others leads to misery," often stems from social conventions, defining what is beautiful and what is not, thereby obliterating the individuality and existence of each person. So, how can we break free from comparisons and reclaim the steering wheel of our own lives? First, we must break free from other standards, have inner determination, and distinguish between the inner and the external. We must understand that the value of life is not based on appearance or the approval of others, but on living as one's authentic self. Life itself deserves respect and love, regardless of one's looks or possessions. Taoism emphasizes the way of nature, and only by following one's heart can we achieve more. We need a continuous source of motivation in our actions, and only when our hearts are true and honest can we soar by fulfilling our desires. This allows us to have a constant supply of fuel and enables us to fly higher and farther like the giant bird in Zhuang Tzu's writings. When Lao Tzu retreated westward through the Hanggu Pass and Zhuang Tzu secluded himself to write, even without food, they might have been seen as failures by some, but their hearts were resolute and free. As Zhuang Tzu put it, "The world praises him without urging, and criticizes him without deterring him, maintaining his balance between internal and external, and distinguishing himself amidst honor and disgrace. The whole world may praise you, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're right, and you don't have to run faster according to their pace. Similarly, if the whole world denies you, it doesn't mean you're wrong. What matters is whether you have inner determination. Next, you must let go of measuring yourself by others' standards. This is actually harder to achieve because when others judge us, we tend to feel it. But when we judge others, we aren't even aware of it. In Zhuang Tzu's On the Equality of Things, there's a phrase that goes, broad and vast, it communicates as one. It can be considered a key insight. All kinds of extraordinary and peculiar situations, such as generous, distorted, deceptive, and bizarre phenomena are, from the perspective of the Tao, interconnected and unified. Zhuang Tzu believed that all external differences are merely superficial. From the perspective of the Tao, everything is the same. And before the Tao, all individuals are equal, treating different people with equality, regardless of their language, skin color, or nationality, is what matters. The scope of a person's vision is the source of their character. When we sit on an airplane, slowly ascending, the buildings below become smaller and smaller until they are just tiny dots disappearing, leaving only clouds. From the Tao's perspective, what difference is there in all things under the heavens? Looking at problems from the viewpoint of the Tao means having a broader perspective and a longer-term outlook. Zhuang Tzu's On the Equality of Things also talks about this commonality. Qi means equality. This idea is quite modern. We can summarize Zhuang Tzu's main thoughts as equality of right and wrong, equality of self and others, equality of beauty and ugliness, equality of life and death, and so on. By transcending one layer after another, we can naturally let go of measuring ourselves and others, leading to more compassion and empathy for the world. Of course, letting go of measuring ourselves doesn't mean we become idle. It's about the way we act. Both Lao Tzu and Zhuang Tzu advocate doing things in harmony with the natural laws of all things, rather than forcing things to conform to our desires. This is the lesson taught in Zhuang Tzu's famous story of Butcher Ding's cutting up an ox. When Butcher Ding prepared an ox for King Hui of Liang, he skillfully used his technique, leaving the king astonished. Butcher Ding then said, "What I pursue is the natural course." Butcher Ding used his skill to achieve the Tao. He pursued the Tao, and through his technique, even the process of slaughtering an ox became an art. Here, the ox is a metaphor for a society filled with obstacles and complexities that we need to understand and avoid. So, what should we avoid? Places that harm our true nature. Like using a knife with skill, when we interact with society, we'll encounter various challenges and difficulties. If we react impulsively or confront every situation head-on, the result might be failure and offending others. This implies that we should be more subtle in our approach. If we can be as skillful as Butcher Ding, sharpening our metaphorical knife to be very thin, we'll find that there's almost no barrier between nothing and existence. With such sensitivity and focus, is there anything we can't accomplish? When we rid ourselves of preconceived notions, we'll find ourselves in complete control. Zhuang Tzu's Free and Easy Wandering, transcending the realm of utilitarianism. In our pursuit of spiritual freedom, one of the obstacles is comparison, and another significant barrier is being too utilitarian. For example, some students, when choosing a major, immediately ask, "Is this major easy to graduate from?" Their interest isn't in their Tao, whether they like the course or what they can learn from it. Their concern is only whether they can graduate smoothly. We work hard to make money, buy houses, cars, have children, and then after having children, we continue to push them to make money, buy houses, cars, and have more children. But have we ever considered that the challenges our future generations will face might be drastically different from what we experience today? There's a scholar in Israel named Yuval Noah Harari, a history professor at Oxford University. His most famous work is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, and he has an opinion in there that many people have heard. He believes that in the future, only 1% of people will undergo the next biological evolution and become a new species, while the remaining 99% will become utterly useless. Many people feel overwhelmed after reading this statement, feeling that life has lost its meaning and their value system has crumbled. Zhuang Tzu offers a remedy to this problem, known as the great use of the useless. Zhuang Tzu tells a story about a large tree called Chu. Zhuang Tzu's good friend Huizi said that the big tree Chu looks very unattractive. Its trunk is uneven and crooked, not straight or in line with any ruler. It curls and doesn't follow any rules, so it's not considered good material. Even craftsmen wouldn't give it a second look. They asked Zhuang Tzu how he should view this tree. Huizi was the epitome of utilitarianism, measuring the tree's worth based on its practical value. A tree that meets all the standards can be used for beams, furniture, and more, but a crooked and twisted tree seems useless, right? Zhuang Tzu, however, didn't think so. He believed that this tree could be planted in the middle of nowhere, in the vast wilderness. People could leisurely stroll by the tree, lie down and nap under its shade. This tree wouldn't be chopped down, and while it may appear useless, it actually preserves itself and benefits everyone. Of course, this was Zhuang Tzu's idea during a chaotic time, and to preserve his own beliefs and write down his thoughts during such a period was already remarkable. It was also an exaggerated style that encourages us to break free from narrow utilitarian thinking and change our relationship with the outside world. In England, there's a remarkable dancer named Gillian Lynne who directed the musicals Cats and The Phantom of the Opera. Who would have thought that such an accomplished person performed poorly in school when she was young? The school said she had learning difficulties, that she was always fidgety and couldn't focus. Fortunately, her mother took her to see a professional doctor who, through careful observation and study, determined that Gillian wasn't ill, but a dance prodigy. Later, Gillian indeed joined the Royal Ballet and became an outstanding dancer. In fact, Gillian is like the crooked and twisted tree Chu in Zhuang Tzu's story. While Huizi thought the tree was useless, Zhuang Tzu saw its potential. This doctor was truly exceptional, being able to recognize the value in the young girl. It's like the story of blind men describing an elephant. Only someone who can observe the whole picture can see what the whole elephant looks like. Though from different countries, this doctor can be seen as having the wisdom of Tao, being able to see oneness through the Tao. To achieve Zhuang Tzu's great freedom and free wandering, once we understand the use of the useless, we can head towards Zhuang Tzu's great freedom and free wandering. Zhuang Tzu's free and easy wandering starts with a romantic scene, the story of a kun becoming a peng. Kun is described as an enormous fish that lives in the North Sea. Peng, on the other hand, is a mythical bird that results from the transformation of kun. Kun is so large that no one knows its size in thousands of miles. The North Sea refers to the Northern Ocean. Living in the North Sea, Kun felt restricted and transformed into a bird. The word transformation is essential. When people feel unfree, they must learn to transform, just like how a fish can transform into a bird, and humans can attain their freedom, achieving the sublimation of their souls. This requires accumulation, courage, a change in mentality, and the right timing. This is the sea crossing, then you shall move to the Southern Ocean, a crucial moment of transformation when Kun becomes Peng. With all these conditions met, a person can reach the realm of free wandering. Of course, changing one's inner self can only be done by oneself. Is it difficult? Yes, it is, but it's also easy. Once we change our beliefs and truly grasp the philosophy of the Tao, we can achieve this transformation. We can soar like a peng and reach our own vision of the Southern Ocean. Zhuang Tzu said, "Wild horses, dust particles, life's breath blows them all." This phrase means that everything in the world is always changing and won't stay the same. It doesn't matter if they are big and powerful things or small and unimportant things. Everything is influenced by the natural way of life. This shows that everything is temporary and always changing. From the Taoist perspective, instead of fighting against these changes, one should go with the flow and accept that things change. They should find harmony with the natural order of things, which is called the Tao. By doing this, people can feel balanced, peaceful, and accepting, even when life is uncertain and always changing. We will see the world in a completely different light. creating a more vast, eternal, and new realm of freedom. This concludes our discussion of Zhuang Tzu. If you have your own insights into Zhuang Tzu and Taoist thought, please share them in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with your family or friends. Thanks for watching.